Got a lot of things I want to cover. Probably going to go for about 30 minutes. Keep it nice and short to some degree. But yeah, so Bitcoin. Turn down some music here. Bitcoin, right? We were looking for that 63 to $65,000 earlier this week, right? So I'll kind of zoom this out a little bit. And we'll kind of go back in time here, right? So on Monday, 15th, we were trading about $62-ish thousand, depending on when it was, right? And then we were looking for, basically 62.8 up to about 65K. There was a volume target up there, a weekly negative point of control. We were looking to see what the potential for, good morning, MX, what the potential for a rejection, a little reversal there, right? Maybe it wasn't going to be an overall reversal, but at least maybe a pullback to the weekly average, which is like down here back at 58.9. There's a slew of things down back below us that we were looking to potentially see if that was going to be, right? So for me, however, like once we started living up in this region, that kind of came off the table that we were probably going to see a sizable pullback at that moment. And now really at 64K, right? So 64K is really the level, and it's kind of been the level at the moment to really hold above. And at that point, the next major area, while 69 is definitely on the table for, once again, quarterly and monthly, volume targets, negative point of controls, a couple things up in there, previous 2021 all-time high once again. This 67 and 67.5 is really got my attention at the moment. So we'll be seeing if we get up there, right? So kind of zoom in a little bit more here. Go back into where we're at now. So on some smaller bases here, right? We were looking for, we started off today pretty much right at that 64K area. Got a nice little launch. This is pretty much where the daily open was. And essentially, you got your Monday high and you've got your yesterday's high, right? And that's kind of your first line in the sand as far as short-term trade for the day, right? Would have been day open to your previous day high. And then that would have been looking for the flip, which we've gotten at the moment. So now we've got our latest highs basically from earlier on in the week, but ultimately, honestly, I'm looking for 67 to 67.5, right? So, and the reasons behind that are, okay, you've got for the last 6 months, right? So January through June. If you were to pull a volume profile for that, there's a naked point of control. So the highest traded area of volume occurred right there at 67,017. There's an untapped monthly level, right? So now we've got new monthly levels of resistance at that area, just like 71,400 was right back in May, right? From April essentially, or March even. So that was a big target of ours to the upside. We've got another one coming in right now at 67,500. Okay. And essentially, just looking to see how that region is, right? So it's just one of those if-then situations, but this would be the next major, if you're in a long, like that's definitely the next major take profit zone, and then potentially look for that sizable pullback, right? So, and what I like about this area at the moment is, once again, well, let's just kind of finish off why that's kind of important, right? So once, like I said, 6-month volume target, we've got a monthly level of resistance coming in there, just like we had right here, right? So not that that's an end-all be-all, just stacking confluence. And then if you're going to pull this whole range that we've been in since, essentially February, but realistically heavy in March there, you'll see we've got the overall range, right? So that's this whole region right here, the overall range point of control, so the highest traded area of volume, which is generally what you're going to seek out once you're in that range, does line up there as well. So we've just got a lot of things stacked right above us at 67K. It's also right above the highs. It's also an area that, in my opinion, would get everybody really excited. And we got such decent news going on right now. And I'm not a big news guy, but you got to point out that at the highs, it's always so exciting, right? We've got everything going on with the election essentially, with certain candidates backing crypto. We've got an event coming up next week for Bitcoin, which is the biggest event of the year, right? And which, mind you, generally that event marks the top. I don't know how or why, and it's not always even in the same month, but it's usually wrapped around the high for some foreseeable. Just something to point out. Not that it has to be like that, but anyways, looking for that 67K. Okay. Obviously, if we flip that, then hey, reevaluate. We definitely have some more targets above us, and maybe we go to all-time highs. Who knows? But for me, I'm actually looking more so for the push up and then see if we get a sizable little pullback here, right? So just looking to see how we're doing, looking good. How's everybody? And one major area that, you know, I've pointed out all week, granted we're getting into the end of the week here, so but this is still a pretty decent area to pay attention for, is back down to 58.8. You know, I'm looking at that in the sense of a weekly average of price, but many would look at that as like a CME futures gap, which is also there. And then if, you know, for example, if we did turn around right here at 67.5, this is just an if situation, right? You'll see that we've got local gold pocket. We basically line up with that region as well. So looking for, you know, something along the lines of that, which would be a sizable move if we got it right, and still would be pretty much just ranging around in this region. So it's just something I'm going to be on the lookout for as we come into that area with that, you know, like I said, local gold pocket, weekly average, CME futures gap, back down, you know, to these swing lows or swing highs back in this region as well. So it's just a big key area for me. Now I will say that another major area, a reason that I'm looking at 67 to 67.5, and just want to point out, right, just as we're in this range, the overall area right here, we kind of zoom this in a little bit so you can see it. Right, so I've just highlighted the range, kind of zoom in here now that we can see it a little bit better. And right, so we've gotten into this range, and what do? Our point of control for the overall range is right there, right? So we're seeking out that area right now. Like I said, it's other reasons stacked in that area as well. But this is the you know, once we're in a range, we're going to seek out that point of control, you know, ultimately. Doesn't always have to happen. Obviously, like I said, you know, new day, new data, you know, come. If you start to get out of that range, lose it, you know, break out, whatever. But at the moment, we got to anticipate that that's where we're heading right here, okay? And I bring that up because, you know, while we're trading at these high areas, it's like I said, it's very exciting. Many are, you know, when you start talking about lower levels at the moment, you know, easy enough, right? If we start breaking the highs, you know, I think everybody can agree we're probably going to see 80K, 90K, 100K, right? Those are the simple breakout targets to the upside. But when you're starting to look at this as a potential breakdown, and the reason I'm going to bring this up is because of how the stock market looks to me, in my opinion, right? So there's a couple of major bearish high time frame, you know, Fibonacci sequence harmonic patterns that are unfolding potentially, right? It's just a potential. It's just like, you know, bring it up like, you know, if you're watching a hurricane potentially form, and, you know, you might get hit, you might not get hit, but you want to be aware of it, right? You might want to go get some supplies. You just want to be prepared, right? That's kind of what I'm going to bring up here. But I brought up the range, you know, overall for this. You seek out the point of control because we've been inside a large range from earlier this year, you know, for quite some time. All right, so hopefully you can see this. This is the first quarter of the year here. Okay, now we've obviously came back in. Right, we did this little swing right here. You've been making your way downtown. That $54,000 was a really nice, you know, once again, another harmonic play that, you know, I don't want to say call. I pointed out, I identified in the leading crypto Discord, right? So we'd been trading that for several weeks, which is, once again, this one right here, where we had the 71,400 was kind of that, you know, completion zone. And then we had these, you know, a couple targets here, which was 64, 58, and then ultimately 54,000 was the target zone. Took 6 weeks to unfold. Got the bounce, obviously, from there. And, you know, honestly, I'm looking to see how we really do react at that 67K, because while we do remain overall inside this previous range, just like we're in the current one right now, you know, it's just on the table. It's a likelihood that we seek out the point of control, okay? And for this range that we've been in for several weeks at this point, it is all the way down at $43,000, all right? And then just an interesting concept here is that just like any other pattern, right? Like if you're a pattern trader, or if you're even looking at just simple support resistance, right? You get that flip, and then you get the back test. All right, so we've obviously made it inside this range, and then potentially coming up for a back test of the high, which is right at that 67 65K zone. So not only is this the overall point of control, the overall volume target for this region at the moment, it's the last 6 months, right? Volume target as well. It's also a monthly left from last month level of resistance. It's all coming in stacked up really nicely right there, right? So it's just a really big area. I'm not saying to blindly short it by any means, but if you're in a long from these areas here, that's definitely a take profit, and it's definitely the next area to look for a short, right? So that's how I'll be playing Bitcoin. And like I said, I know just no news needed. I know that everybody probably would think I'm crazy talking about a $43,000 Bitcoin with everything that's going on. But just as we were trading into and one thing I want to point out is I'm not married to these, this idea that like we have to go down there. It's just something I've just heavily been monitoring since we've been in this range up here. And honestly, like the way we've ranged up here, it just makes more sense that we would come down just because of how many times you've just kind of gotten more people into the market and more people into the market. The altcoins have just been getting crushed. Everybody's buying the dip, and it just, it would. And the biggest piece of this is that actually Ethereum is the one that really initiated my kind of pullback outlook because it printed a pretty big pattern that had almost a 50% target, right? And that was back in March. So if ETH was going to pull back potentially 50%, and that's not an overnight deal, right? But then I'll show you that, guys, in a second. But if ETH was going to pull back 50%, then obviously the rest of the market is going to come with it. There's been such a long distribution phase, though, that it would be interesting. So, like I said, not married to that idea, but it's technically speaking, it's a setup, right? It's definitely there. Depends on how we react around 67K. So just something to monitor. Like that's a higher time frame ordeal, right? Shorter time, just kind of ranging around this region is kind of where we're at. And like I said, with all the positivity going on right now, it's like there's so much. What's up, Angel? There's so much. I'll show you the stocks here in a second too, right? When I look around, it's just interesting to know, right? On a sense of a psychology idea, like where it's like there's people literally saying that they've never been more bullish, on crypto and on Bitcoin right this moment, and everything that's going on with our potential candidates. And like I said, you just got a lot of things coming in, right? And it's just very similar to right here. You got the ETH ETF next week. And if we still get a little bit more of a push up, honestly, the price moving up is going to make people the most emotional, right? That's when everybody gets ecstatic, exciting. You get the real big either the perma bulls or the perma bears will come out on each move and just get extreme, right? So, but yeah, anyways, so 67K is what I'm looking for on Bitcoin. Like I said, that potential for an overall rollover still very much there. I'm not interested in 50K pretty much at all. ETH, just take a look at this really quickly, and I'll just kind of highlight, if you've been following, any of my YouTube videos, even any of the videos I've been putting on, even TikTok, since March, maybe February. I know we've been talking about it in the group forever. It's just been a really big potential that is, that could still unfold. And it's just now is actually a point where we're like seeing all kind of markets kind of making certain areas at the same time. So it's just got my attention, right? I'm just very cautious at these levels. I've also been in the markets, for the entire time. So, I've gotten, I ended up, taking a good amount of profit from my $1,200 allocated Ethereum, at about 3,300. Didn't catch the exact top. I still have 25% in, obviously, in case the market keeps going without me. But overall, I've been targeting back to 2K-ish on Ethereum. And once again, not because I just like want that target and whatever the case is, but we printed this bearish pattern, right? So this is once again a sequence of Fibonacci's. This is known as the alternate bat pattern. All right, and I will say that we have hit a major target, right? So it's not to say we couldn't just kind of bounce out of here and continue, because this has definitely hit one of the major targets. But the next major target, and generally what we see out of these, is we'll come back down to the B leg. This is also coincides with the gold pocket from the overall low to high, and this is our average of price for the entire year of last year, right? So think of that as like a moving average that just does not move, and it's very likely to be met in the following session. which that is going to be time frame, right? So if I'm looking at last year's average, that's this year's, a major area that we might, come into this year. So when I identified this, obviously we were trading up in this region. Obviously, like I said, we got the reaction from this. So this is definitely an active, pattern at the moment. Has hit major target a couple times. Actually, it's bounced off of it pretty nicely. But if this does roll over, like I said, it's sub 2K is where I'm looking for. That would kind of align with Bitcoin going to a 43, potentially even lower. But at the moment, that's just what I'm technically would be looking at if we get a rollover. And now somebody asked me about the stocks, and the stocks are all printing the exact same thing too, right? So all three major indices, S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones. Dow Jones is a little bit off, but just and once again, these all can fail. I'm not married to this. I'm just highly aware. It's just like anybody that's coming into the market today, it's so risky compared to obviously months ago, weeks ago, whatever. This can change. Obviously, we can adjust the idea here, but at the moment, this is where like everything is coming into major pullback areas, right? And I'm not saying like in the stock market wise, I'm looking at like 10-15% pullback, which is drastic for for stock market. I do still anticipate a move higher after that. So you're talking maybe the rest of the summer into September, which just happens to line up with maybe we see the rate cuts happen in September, October, whatever the case is. Obviously, the elections are going to play a huge role in Q4, so I'm sure that we'll see, some continuation around there. But in the short term, like next few weeks here, this is a huge bearish pattern, right? That has, and you can go to my Twitter. I've been pointing this out since, at least publicly since 520, that 560 was going to be the, kind of completion zone of this. And the targets back for this are down to 483, and this is the S&P. This is the SPY, which is the Spider ETF of the S&P 500. So it's the same pattern is on the S&P as well. I just tracked this one for I don't know, simplicity, I guess. But this is a potential 15% pullback that we've already seen a little bit, right? It's not like too crazy. Once again, these can fail. This one's not a guarantee, but it's definitely there. NASDAQ has the exact same spot, right? And look where we rejected from. It's, right at that 20,600, the 1618 expansion. You've already got actually a pretty sizable pullback on NASDAQ, 4 or 5%, which isn't a lot in crypto. Definitely is a big feel in the stock market. And the Dow Jones actually has a little bit more potential upside, even though this is more like a zone. Doesn't have to be perfect. But 42K Dow was kind of what I was targeting for that one. And same thing. All of them have pretty big key levels. Well below that all match up with their B points on these patterns, and you can study these patterns if you like at theharmonictrader.com. There's all kinds of content and everything on there. They're very specific, takes a little bit of getting used to. They have specific targets as well, and then like I said, they can fail. They're not exact, they're not guaranteed, but that's kind of what and why like all this is kind of correlating into each other at the moment, right? So you've got Bitcoin coming back into some key levels at the moment, potentially back testing that overall range high, right, that we were just going on at 67K. Try to clear this up a little bit. And we'll just go ahead and clear all this stuff off. No more need for that at the moment. All right. So that's kind of the gist, I guess, of where my head's at the moment. So, we were covering this. I've been covering this pretty heavily, obviously, in the Discord. If you're interested in joining that, you can check that out for 7 days free. Otherwise, like I said, on Twitter or, on YouTube and even on here pretty much. I'm trying to do a live stream on here pretty much daily at this point. But yeah, so that's kind of the overall gist. Let's see. Is there any like altcoins anybody wants to take a look at? I see... Trying to make sure that this live is even still working. XRP, I know, was a big one earlier this week. Everybody was interested in, and I did want to point out the Trump one too again, right? So, and the reason being is just, I'm simple technicals. Like I said, I don't go with the news. A lot of these, areas, there's 2 million coins, so obviously you can't like look at everything and be prepared for every single move, but a lot of these have setups that can take place and key levels that you can target, and then news is like always coming out late, right? So like if you're going to try to catch the news on something, you're almost always late to the party on that one, right? So XRP is, we were covering this on Monday. I think we were trading right, yeah, it must have been maybe it was Wednesday. I thought we were trading into that during the live stream, but yeah, we came right into the key areas, and you got a pretty sizable rejection, right? So 15% off that high. So anybody that's coming in late, I don't even know what the news was around there at the time, if there was any, but once again, people are buying heavily right into resistance, always fearful at the low, always excited at the high. And this can still continue up. I even pointed out in that stream where it's like, I'd look for at least a 382 pullback, which is exactly what we got. And then there's an untapped daily here. You might even see the gold pocket, but at least that 382 is where the better buy-in area than if you were just like had to jump in XRP right now. It's at least 53 cents would have been better than 62, right? So that's where we're at now. I still could see this kind of punching a little bit higher here. Definitely need to flip that 63, and then overall my dollar target is still kind of floating up there at the moment. But I point this out because it's just so interesting that when it's just the power of TA, right? In my opinion, right? So like, if there's anything exciting going on, why does the price stop here? When you got to imagine that the most people are probably piling in right there, and it's just like, it's a key level. The people who bought before you are obviously selling into it. And then you get that pullback. And an amazing example of that is Trump. All right. So, obviously there was no way to foresee what happened last Saturday. But this was actually the legit setup I gave in the Discord, where when we were trading up in $15 for anybody that hadn't gotten into this, for me, I wasn't interested until we came back to 457. It was the exact level I was looking for. Nothing before, nothing less, right? We came down, met that on the 4th of July pullback when we came down with Bitcoin for 55K or 53, whatever it ended up at. And then I was looking for a move back to basically 10 bucks. Shot right through that. Once again, news did correlate at the time, but there was no way you could have traded that news event quickly, right? And most people probably did jump on that because this was such a quick move. And with the good news that came out of that, right, being that, he was okay. Obviously, one of the people in the crowd were not, unfortunately, but you would imagine that would have just kept going up. I can only imagine how many people came in and rushed in to try to, hop on this train thinking it was just going to rocket up, only to see 40% pullback from there. And really, like, that's just from like where we took profits at, but overall that was a 50% pullback. So it's just an interesting point out for just technicals in general, right? Just trying to get a little edge on the market. BNB amp. BNB, it's always funny with like there's always a wide variety, of what altcoins I guess everybody's kind of looking at. BNB was one we covered the other day, so I already had the chart kind of mapped out here. So for me, if you're already in BNB, and this is kind of how you have to look at things, right? It just depends on what the timing is for you. Are you already in this project? Have you been holding from highs? Are you in from lower? What is your plan on this, right? But just from a sheer outlook update, obviously take this for whatever it's worth to you in your situation. Like if you're looking for a new entry, or if you're already holding, and if you're just curious on where price could go and why, it's all going to depend on what's going on with you and your holdings at the moment. And for me, BNB definitely has a little move potential back up to this gold pocket, which is like 620-ish. Which from where we are be like another 7%, really nothing crazy. You obviously would be looking to sweep the high or clear that high for any new highs. And ideally at the moment for me, it's if I'm looking for a new fresh entry, if I'm not holding this yet, and say the market just gets a grand red day, like where am I looking to either DC, what area am I looking to get involved with? Getting is going to be back to like 382 down to like 320. All right. And that might not occur. We might not even see that move. And realistically looking at it, it sounds crazy. Once again, it's like 38, it's 40, it's 40%. that can easily happen, right? So we haven't actually seen a sizable altcoin pullback in a few months. And with, once again, the whole stock market outlook I just kind of showed, the Bitcoin potential move down to, in the 40K range, the Ethereum move, if those occur, that's where I'll be looking. That's if I was getting into BNB, that's what I'd be looking for, right? That just kind of correlates. Like those are the key levels that I'd be looking to. Otherwise, yeah, it's probably up to like 622, and then simple. At this point, clear the high. The thing I did want to point out though is that you have almost like a Bitcoin 2021 scenario here, where you had your all-time high. If I can show it, okay. You had the all-time high, and we just swept it, right? So one of two things happened here, right? Anybody that had short trades in, which I doubt anybody just shorted the exact high and never moved their stop loss or anything, but in theory, right, you would come up and you'd stop out anybody that had a short in, stop loss, or even just entered in that region, and then you got another pullback here, and you also probably had so many people come into the into this trade brand new at the high, thinking, all right, new all-time highs, price discovery, I'm in, only to get that pullback also, and then overall to see this move back down, I think is very on the table, right? So that's like one of those very common setups where that'll hurt a lot of people. And like if we had come up here and started living above the all-time high, that's like one thing. Daily closes, let's just even see how many dailies we got up here. Probably did get a few, I guess. Yeah, you did. You got a few dailies, so it was nice. And then once you got this daily close below, back test, daily close below, that would have been kind of the, big warning in the sand to be like, all right, this might not be continuing up. And then we got that from there. So short term, I think we still get a bounce, like 7%. But ultimately, I'd be targeting these areas for a fresh entry. And like I said, we might not get that, but that should. And once again, you might not get that, but guess what? There's 2.4 million cryptos. So somewhere, how there's going to be some entries. There's going to be some positions that you can get into. All right, we got Bitcoin pushing up. No sound. Been struggling with these live stream settings. WIF. I do like WIF. Let's take a look at WIF. Oh, AMP. I saw you. I'll get your AMP, I promise. We'll do WIF. Only because I have WIF already made, and then we'll have to set up AMP brand new. WIF is moving up, right? Had this set up in the Discord. Same thing with Trump, right? So I actually posted this and Trump at the same time. Trump went up like 140%. This is up 60% at the moment. Still probably going to push up to like 280-ish, which is an 80% move. So, and you're in an old range at this point, right? So a couple things in this scenario. In an old range, back tested the low, okay? We're coming into little daily level of resistance at the moment, but overall I'm looking for that volume target right above us. All right, this is also a high time frame average, about 280, and then we'll see if we actually get another continuation up in this range. But that's definitely my major take profit in the short term right now, is right there, like 280-ish. I don't think I have AMP on here. Oh, I sure do, actually. Okay. Zoom out here a bit. Damn. This is a really old. Okay. Alrighty. So AMP is probably going to continue making her way downtown a little bit. Yeah, right there, front ran it a little bit. Okay, AMP, huge impulse move to the upside, nothing but giving it back on the way down. In an old range at the moment. Volume target is just below us. You could probably actually say this has probably been tagged. Let's just see what it looks like on the smaller time frame. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, has a pretty big untapped quarterly level all the way back up. Oh man, this is a sub 1 cent. It's crazy. I hope this is the right one. AMP. I'm assuming this is the right one. Yeah, I mean, barring some small moves, kind of pushing up still. I would say that you'd still probably have a little bit of downside coming, this way. And where we are down to like this region is sizable. It's about 20% if it does hit that. And let's just say worst case is Bitcoin and the markets all kind of get that pullback, like a stink bid. I would say would be down here, but ultimately, yeah, I think you're coming into areas where you probably will see a sizable bounce. At least back to that like 1 cent at some point. All right. Let's take a last look at Bitcoin right before I sign off here to see how it's doing. Kind of refresh that idea again real quick, right? Where earlier this week I was looking for the move from, mind you, we opened right around 60K, okay? The idea at hand was 65K, and then look for a pullback, to potentially back down to the weekly average. This was at the time, it still is at the time, I guess, a CME futures gap, which I didn't necessarily pay much attention to, but I know that if we pulled back there, that's what everybody would, attest it to, like, oh, that was just a CME futures gap, whatever. But as always, right, you got to know when you got to kind of switch that idea set. So the 64K being held. So what I was looking for in the beginning of the week was this, right? Just to kind of cover some, the whole mental break here was that shoot up to 65K. There was like I said, a weekly naked point of control, so a weekly volume target right there, and then essentially a quick move back down, closing below and like staying below, and that's kind of what similar to what the BNB chart just was. And then you essentially have the setup now. You just took the highs, you hit a key level, and we'd be looking for the pullback. The issue is that we did not. We had a high time frame average right here that we were basically flipping, and that's probably one of the biggest support and resistances right now that's relevant for this quarter is 64K. So at that point, you got to start looking higher. And even though it's kind of given us a run for our money here because it's been kind of teetering on that level all week. Right, you can see how we lost it for a minute, and then you kind of reclaimed it. You were holding it, you kind of lost it, and then now we're living back above it, right? So this just kind of tells me that we're probably going to at least push up to 67, and if not 69. But 67, 67.5 is definitely where I have my eyes set at the moment. And then, like I said, it sets up a really nice move back down to that. For me, it's more so the weekly average, but it'll be a gold pocket, and then many people will say it's because of the CME gap. And that's kind of the next setup here for me, right? So this is also an area where I could see if we are going to get a sizable retracement in the market, this very well could be it. So it's just, once again, not married to it, not just throwing all my eggs in a basket, not blindly going to short this, not going to sell every single thing at this point. Like, I just am highly aware that with the way that the indices look at the moment, with where we are at Bitcoin, and with how more bullish than anyone has ever been before, right? That's like a reoccurring statement I keep seeing on from a lot of people, right? So just makes me kind of want to counter that at least. So we'll see, right? So so far, we are still back within the range that we've been trading in for freaking ever. So at some point it's going to break. I just personally I see the world where we probably head down to like 40s. And then, not that that's like, oh, that's whatever. Everybody always likes to say like, oh, the bull run is over, the bull market is over, and it's just that's not. I don't think that's really the case, right? So like, and for me, I look at the stock market at this point, right? And like, you don't ever hear people say that about the stock market. I know that they were probably thinking like, when the stock market does pull back, it'll be, recession time or whatever. But what you don't ever hear is like every single pullback or every single move. It's like everybody's so wrapped up in 4-year cycle bull runs on Bitcoin, like it has to happen that way. When in reality, this is a $1 trillion asset that I think that we should start treating that way, right? So just like anything in the stock market, you just have bull trends and bear trends, right? And it might be a year, it might be 6 months, it might be whatever. Maybe we get a pullback, 40-50% pullback in Bitcoin in total, right? That's so normal, right? This in this market, we see it all the time and time again. And honestly, like I can see something like this happening with the stock market pulling back maybe 15-20%, depending. But then after that, I still see this market going higher. So, for anybody that missed that, meteoric rise last year, this is where possibly if we get it, I'd be looking to, like all the altcoins that you maybe missed out on or that you want at lower areas or whatever the case is. That's what I'd be looking for, right? So that's what I'm preparing for, and that's what I'm preparing for everybody for daily in the Leading Crypto Discord. So I'll kind of leave it off with that. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Once again, if you'd like to join the Leading Crypto Discord, I give basically 24/7 updates. All my, basically I have a included member academy where it kind of covers all the resources, the tools, and how I, kind of identify all these levels and everything. So you can at least understand the terminology or like what I'm looking at. All included there. And then, like I said, daily updates, daily setups, pretty much all day, every day. So 7 days for free if you'd like to try. It's only $35. After that, if you don't like it, cancel it before you get charged. But I really appreciate you all watching. I will be back live again, probably on Monday here on TikTok. And then you can find this recording on my YouTube channel about half an hour after we're done here. So thank you all so much. Have a great remainder of your day. Have a great weekend. And until the next one, everybody, cheers.